How's it going, guys? AnxiousCynic back again with another Blender tutorial. Alright, so today we're actually going to get into trying to animate our character into doing something meaningful. So one thing I wanted to point out at the beginning of this tutorial is you notice down here there are no keyframes on the timeline. That is because we don't have what we animated, which is the character rig, selected. So that was just a little note I wanted to run by you guys. All this stuff is very context sensitive of what you have the mouse over, what you have selected, and all this kinds of things. So if I go ahead and click on our rig, then you'll see that our keyframes are now present. So just keep that in mind. Don't be alarmed if that happens. Anyway, so what I want to do is go ahead and tab into the animation screen. And I'm going to get rid of these keyframes we have over here. Don't really need all this stuff going on, so let's make sure we got all that gone. And what I want to do is move the character into the house. Let's see if we can have him kind of come out of the house or something. So the way you move the character is actually beneath him. The bone that moves the character is below. You may see that little square there, if I can get it right there. Yeah, right there. So that's actually the main bone that you use to move the character around for this particular rig, of course. So what we want to do is take that bone and move him into the house because that's where we want him to start. So you may notice that we have all these keyframes over here still from when I selected all the bones and keyframed them in the previous part. Well, I'm just going to leave those be, and I'm just going to select this bone here, just this one. And you notice that I'm having to like go through here. Well, there's a few things that I can do to fix that. One is I can go into wireframe mode so I can see all the bones and whatnot through things. But another thing that I can do, and this actually might help when we're animating, let's go ahead and put this back in material view, is I can actually move some of these things into layers. So down here you may notice these little squares, and we have this one with a dot on it that's currently selected basically. These are all your layers in Blender, and you can move objects and things or lights or cameras or whatever you need to these layers and toggle them on or off and multiple ones at the same time. So just for an example here, let's say we want to get rid of some of the stuff that's kind of cluttering the scene. We don't need to see this for now, and I'll hit the shift key and I'll select the leaves over there. Maybe I'll select that tree, like the wood and everything. This one over here. Maybe we'll grab I don't think we can grab the fence. It's going to select all the oaks, so let's get rid of that. So now let's just say I've got everything I wanted selected, and I want to move this stuff away so that I can focus on my scene. Well, I can just hit the M key, as in move, and then you'll see that this move to layer selection comes up. And you can see that this first one is the one that we have selected now. This is what it currently exists on. I'm just going to select the next layer, and I'm going to click that. And as you can see, all that stuff disappears. And then down here, we have this dot on the next layer. So if I click on that, then you'll see that we have all the stuff that we just moved, but not the rest of the scene. And if I click on this one, then we bring back the rest of our scene. However, if we want to see both of them at the same time, I can hold the shift key and click on that one, and it brings both layers into view. As you can see now, they're both ticked. So yeah, that's how you can do that and kind of break down your scene into parts so that you can animate a little bit more easily. So as you can see now, at least on this view, we have his bones selectable, and we can bring him in just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Tab to toggle into pose mode, and I'm going to select that bone. And let's just go into top view here. And since I didn't get rid of this stuff, I'm just going to go into wireframe. I'm going to hit the G key to grab, and I'm just going to move Steve on over into here, and I'm pretty sure that should be pretty good. Something I'm not sure if I covered in the previous parts, but since I have him selected, you may notice that when I'm zooming in here, I zoom and zoom and zoom, and it just stops here. I'm not really sure what you would call this, but basically Blender is kind of like you're zooming in from, say, a camera, and you're reaching your maximum focal length basically, and you can't get closer, and that can be really troublesome when you're trying to animate and you're like, well, how do I get closer to the character when it won't let me? Well, one thing I can do is on my numpad, there may be another way to do it, but the way I'm familiar with it is on the numpad, you have a period key, and I'm going to hit that key, and you'll see it zoom me into what I had selected, and that works for anything. Whatever you have selected, if you hit the period key on your numpad, it will zoom you into that selection so that you can work and life is good again, as you can see. Alright, so we've got Steve where we want him to be. He's just sitting here inside of his house, this glorious little house that I built, and we want him to basically just stand there maybe for a moment. We'll have him stand there for maybe a second. So I'm going to move our cursor over to the 30 frame 30 on our timeline, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit I to insert the another keyframe for everything so that we don't have to, oh, hang on. Let's undo that. So I hit undo twice by accident. So I want to actually have the cursor back on 30, and I can actually redo that movement because Blender keeps up with pretty much everything that you do. So I'm going to hit Control Shift and Z because undo is Control Z. So if I hit Control Shift and Z, that actually is the redo, and it brings my cursor back up. Of course, I could have just moved it back, but that's just a little tip if you undo something too much and you want to go back to it. Alternatively, if you hit the T key, you can bring up your toolbar if it's not already up, and you have under Tools, you have History, and you can click this and you can click Undo History. You have your Undo and Redo buttons there as well, but if you click Undo History, this shows you every change that you've made, and you can actually go back and select one in particular if you know where you're trying to get back to. All right, so we've got them sitting there, and we want to select all of our bones. So I'm going to hit A and A. There we go. Got all the bones selected, and I'm going to hit I and location, rotation, scale, and there we go. Now we have all the keyframes that we wanted and whatnot. All right, so let's just say we want to get Steve moving. So I'm not really sure how good this is going to be. We're just going to try to do a basic walk cycle just real quick. I'm not going to promise it looks good, but we're just going to go with it for now. And see what we can get in a short amount of time. So I'm just going to go ahead and rotate this one from the side view. So I'm going to rotate this arm to, let's just say, and as I'm rotating, by the way, when you move something or rotate it or whatever, you may notice that on the bottom left of this screen, right around here, if you can see where my cursor is, right there, a number shows up. And that's showing you like the degrees or the, the increments in which you're moving something or rotating it or whatever. So if I want to, let's go ahead and hit Alt R to bring that back. If I rotate this and I'm like, I think, around 40 degrees works. Well, I can type in 40 using my numpad. You can probably use the numbers on top of the keyboard as well. I'm not sure. And it will automatically go to 40 degrees. And then I can hit enter and it will save that change. So yeah, that's just a little note there. All right, so I'm just going to take this and maybe bend the arm as well. And since this arm, the left arm, is going forward, we're going to go ahead and take the left leg and go backwards. So I'm going to hit G and grab that, and somewhere right around there. That looks about like 0.3, so I can hit 0.3 on the Y. Let's hit Y to make sure that only applies that way. And we have that pose there. All right, so I'm going to take this arm with it selected. I'm going to hit R to rotate, and looks like it's going to be about 30 maybe. We'll go with that. I'm going to select this one, and I don't know, maybe this one should kind of stay, I don't know. We'll go with -3. We'll just have it slightly bent. And for this leg, we're going to bring it forward. So I'm going to hit grab with the G key. I'm going to hit Y to constrain it to the Y axis. And I'm just going to bring it forward, maybe about 0.3 or -0.3. There we go. And that doesn't look too bad to me. It looks like his heel is kind of losing contact with the ground there, but we can fix that. So let's hit Control S to save, Control S and then enter, unless you go to File up here, of course. So there's our first basic pose. We can also move the body around, and that's probably what we'll want to do here. Let's see what we got as we do this. So he starts to move like so. Go to frame 30, and we're just gonna grab this bone here, which is like the main bone for the body technically, and we're gonna move it down. So I'm gonna hit G and Z, because when he's in the middle of that stride, we want him to kind of come down to keep his heels in contact with the ground. And yeah, so we can do that. You can also grab these. Maybe we'll rotate him something like this, maybe about 2. And let's see here, maybe this one. Can we rotate it on the Z? How does that look? Something like that, maybe about -7. We'll go with something like that. And let's see here, what we want to do is reverse this position technically. And it really depends, I guess, on how fast you're walking. I'm not sure about the science of this. I kind of just wing it. But usually I'm scrolling in and out with my scroll wheel on the timeline here to bring up the individual keyframes a little better. Usually I think walk cycles are about typically around like 12 or 13 frames, I think. So basically it would be about like 6 frames for each position, if I'm not horribly mistaken right now. So I'm just going to move up to the 36th frame here. And let's see if we can bring Steve into another position. We're going to hit G and then bring it up a little bit. All right, guys, so now that we've got the position set up for the intermediate, we'll probably have to come back and change that once we see exactly how the legs are going to go. But we want to change the position of the arms and legs here to the reverse of what we have them here. So what I'm going to do is come back to this frame here, and we want to copy this, and then we're going to paste it, but paste the opposite. So if you notice down here, you have the copy selected keyframes, and then you have the paste keyframes, and then you have paste keyframe from buffer for selected channels. It says all this stuff, but basically this means that it's going to paste it in the opposite pose that it was in, and I'll try to show what that means in a second here. So basically what we want to do is I'm only going to try to copy the keyframes or the bones positions that we changed. So I'm going to click on this bone, I'm going to hold shift and click on this one. I'm going to click on the feet so we can get both of those, and we're going to click on this one and this one. And I think we edited this one and this one. So with those selected, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit copy. You can also hit Control C and Control V like your normal copy paste buttons, but we're just going to use these down here. And then we're going to move up 6 frames from this position here. So this is at 36, I believe. So we're going to move up to 42, I believe. Something like that, I think. And we're going to hit paste and this one here, so it pastes the opposite. And as you can see, we only copied those bones and we only affected these positions. So now when we scroll through, he does the typical walk cycle type move there. So what I want to do now is, since we still have that original position copied, I'm just going to paste again, but actually like a normal paste. So we need to go 6 frames from here is 48, and then another 6 frames from there is going to be 54, I believe. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit paste, and then we get that position again. And for this one here, we want to copy this position as well, but we also need to get our passing pose going. So what I need to do is figure out which leg is coming forward, and I believe it is the left leg. So at this keyframe position, I'm going to grab this leg, and let's just hit G and Z, and maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll bring it back just a tad, so I'm going to hit G and Y. Maybe something like that. We're just going to wing it and see what we get here. Again, this is not going to be a perfect walk cycle and whatnot. All right, so now that we've got that passing pose, we're going to copy this. We're going to hit copy, and we're going to come over here to the frame 48. And I don't know, we can try to, we'll see what paste opposite does, and we'll go with that. Let's just see what that gives us. That gives us nothing, so let's undo it. And we're just going to hit paste and do like so. And let's just see, we want to bring this leg down. We may actually be redoing some of this a little bit, so let's just bring that down, and then G and Y, something like so. Let's come around here and grab this one, and grab that bone right there, man. All right, then we're gonna hit G and Z a little bit. This isn't gonna be perfect again, but you know, we'll do what we can. All right, so we'll do like that. And let's just scrub through and see how bad this looks. Dupe and dupe. All right, so you see we got a little bit of a glitch going on there with that leg. We don't want that happening. So we're coming down there. So with this one, it looks pretty good. It has this little hop there. We don't want that. Zoom in with my mouse just a little bit here. All right, so we went ahead and played with this. So let's see if we can rectify this by bringing the leg back a little bit. Something like that. Let's see what that does for us. Seems okay, I guess. We'll go with that. Let's go ahead and save our changes. Now all we want to do is copy these keyframe positions. So we're back at this pose, which is the original pose. So all I would need to do is copy these keyframes here. This one, and this one. And then when we paste these each 6 frames apart, we should get a walk cycle. Now, there are other ways to do this. There are things I think called actions in Blender and whatnot, but we're just going to go with this basic like keyframe thing for now just to see what we can make happen. So I'm going to hit copy and let's hope that this works. We are at frame 54, so that means it's 60. We need this to paste, so let's go ahead and hit the paste. And it worked! Oh my goodness. All right. So we'll keep going like so. 78, so that means we need to go to 84. And we're going to hit paste. And we've got a few steps in there. And we should be good to go. So let's see what this looks like. Let's go to the very first frame. He's static and steady. And I hit the wrong button there. And we're going to hit play. All right, so that's not like 100%. We definitely need to do some work on that, but that's our basic walk cycle. So let's just see if we can make Steve move and get this on the road here. So let's see, we're gonna go to our first frame. Let's zoom out here so we can see our whole timeline. And basically what we have here is this movement where he goes into that pose very suddenly. So what I'm gonna do here is go to the very first frame here, and I'm gonna select this. I'm gonna hit copy, and I'm gonna bring it to frame 20 here, and I'm gonna hit paste. And then what we should get then is a more like a faster movement. He's just gonna stand there, and then suddenly he's gonna go into his walk cycle there, which is a very poor walk cycle, but it actually doesn't look too bad considering we got some of the nice little like blendery movements with his hips twisting and whatnot. So we'll just go with that. And I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna select his body bone, or the move bone, whatever you want to call it, the character controller. There we go. And at this point, we want him to start moving. So maybe around there. This kind of occurs at a different speed. This is 10 frames apart, whereas our walk cycle is like a 12 frame walk cycle. So we're just gonna have him move a little bit slower at this point. So let's just take note of where his feet are. So we're basically lined up on this line here. So his back foot needs to be lined up there as well. So I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna hit G and Y since we're on the Y axis here, and see if we can do something like that and see what that looks like. So that's not too bad. And then from here, we're just gonna go on to this last frame and move it G and Y and just see how this looks. So now that we moved him there, we can watch this and see what it looks like. One thing to note up here in this corner here, when it plays, it actually shows you the frame rate that the animation is playing in Blender, and unfortunately it's usually a lot lower than what you'll be rendering as. So that's why it looks so slow here, but he's actually moving quite fast, and I'll show you an example of how to view that in a moment. All right, so as you can see, that's pretty terrible. He's walking faster than he's moving there. What we do want him to do, though, is come up to the door and open it eventually. I don't know if we'll get to that in this episode, but that's what we want him to do. But just to see if our walk cycle works, I'm just going to move him and have him kind of phase through the door in a very poor fashion. But, you know, we'll do what we can. All right, so now he's back at position 1. Let's play this. So we're definitely getting closer to where we want to be, but that's obviously a bit too far. So let me see if I can finesse this a little bit, and then we'll come right back. All right, guys, so I moved him a little bit so it's a little bit more in sync, and as you can see when we play it, he begins to walk, and it's a little bit more natural. All right, guys, that's going to pretty much do it for this walk cycle today. I'm sorry that it's really not that great of a walk cycle. Once again, I am winging this as I go, and I'm trying to learn along with you. If you watched the first episode, then you kind of understand where I'm coming from. But that is the basic principle of how you create a walk cycle. I definitely intend to come back and do something a little bit better with this. I'm going to hopefully try to practice with Blender in the meantime before we get to the next part. And we'll go over some other techniques for animating your scene and things like that. Interacting, we'll have them maybe open the door and things like that. And I'll try to refine this a bit in the meantime as well. But I hope that was helpful to you in some way. I hope you learned a little bit of stuff about how to animate in Blender and how to make things work and animate your character. Another thing to note before we go here is I don't know if I covered this or not, but I'm middle mouse clicking on this toolbar here, and that makes it orbit back and forth to see the things that are cut off if your window isn't big enough, so just keep that in mind. If I did mention it earlier, then there's your reminder. If I didn't, then now you know. Anyway, there's also the issue of the frame rate that I talked about. So one thing I'm going to show, if you can watch this, I'm going to back it up to the beginning here. So just if you watch this corner up here, when I play, you'll see there it's only playing at about 13 point something frames per second, which can make it very difficult to animate and see exactly what your scene is going to look like. So I think a lot of people use sound, like they go ahead and like kind of make the audio for their animation and then play it in Blender. I'm not 100% sure how to do that yet, so what I'm going to show you is a little trick you can do within Blender to kind of make it play a little bit closer to how it should play, and that is simply by going into wireframe mode. So if I hit the Z key with my mouse cursor over the 3D view here, then we're in wireframe mode, and obviously this isn't the most pleasant way to view your animation, but if I play this now, then you'll see that we're actually up to 22, 23 frames per second. It also may depend on how complicated your scene is and things like that determines how slow that frame rate is, and of course, you know, the specs of your computer and how well it can handle Blender and all this 3D-ness. But that's a little thing you can do so that you can see exactly what's going on in your animation a little bit better. And let's just go back into material view there. There's also something that I forgot to mention in the previous part with changing the transitions and the type of your keyframes and whatnot. If I select these keyframes here and I hit the T key, it brings up the set keyframe interpolation mode like I showed you in the previous episode. Well, if you come down here on their toolbar, you also have these buttons, and one is called Key, and you have interpolation mode here, and this brings up the same menu, but just through these buttons. So if you don't want to remember all these little key bindings and stuff, you have these toolbar selection areas that does a lot of the same things. It's just like the insert keyframe here, which is I typically. So there you go. That's some extra little tidbits of how to navigate Blender and do things. We might get into some of this other stuff like the handle type in a future part, but for now, we're just going to go with that and look at our derpy little walk cycle. So, yeah, not the best, but we got Steve to move. He's walking, he's doing stuff. So that's going to be it for this episode, guys. I hope it was helpful. I hope you learned something. I'm still learning myself, so I really do apologize for how kind of wonky this tutorial was and then not getting the best results. But it is what it is, and we're learning together. So I hope it was helpful. Hope you learned something once again, and that's it. So thanks for joining me, guys. If you like this tutorial, if you like this series and it's helping you or whatever, feel free to hit that like button, comment, and subscribe to become a citizen today. If you want to encourage me to do more of these videos and give me more time to work in Blender and get better at it, to do better tutorials and whatnot, then feel free to check out the Patreon link in the description. Otherwise, that's it for me. So thanks for joining me, guys, and I will see you in the next video.